back to Glitter Budget with your hosts, Ann Jeanette.
And Jess.
And in today's episode, we are discussing the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is the last movie in our series of movies that are highlighting issues of mental health awareness and addiction and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because we couldn't math, and there are 5 Wednesdays
Yes.
in this month of September.
So you guys get an extra episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I coughed right into the microphone. My apologies. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is directed by Milos Forman,
Mm-hmm.
and it stars Jack Nicholson, Christopher Lloyd, Louise Fletcher, Danny DeVito. Oh my God, Wormtail. The guy who played Wormtail. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway, we'll get to his name after we go for some facts from the movie, from the year the movie came out, 1975.
Yes. Oh my God. So, there had a lot of shit happened in '75. Charlie Chaplin was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II.
Charlie Chaplin? Chaplin? Silent movie guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just say a name again so it's said correctly.
Charlie Chaplin?
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I thought. All right. Anyway, he was knighted. All right. Fucking Christ. Margaret Thatcher was voted in prime minister, which was the first female to ever hold any type of office in the British government.
Yes.
So, and then our favorite Rocky Horror Picture Show
It
was
debuted on Broadway.
Broadway debut.
I can't wait to do that one. Anyway.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, though, was an adaptation by the book that was written by
Ken Kesey.
Shortly after the book was released, Kirk Douglas loved the book so much he immediately bought the rights to it and actually took it on to theater, which he played Jack Nicholson's what Jack Nicholson would eventually play was
McMurphy.
I thought that was right, and then I questioned myself. He played McMurphy. I think it also starred on the theater aspect of it. Gene Wilder
played Billy Bibbit,
and then I don't remember who else.
They mentioned one other person in one of the bigger roles. I don't know if it was someone that played Chief or if it was another bigger role, but they mentioned a third person who also starred in the stage adaptation of it.
That ran for a few years in the '60s, and Kirk Douglas had intended to, bring it to film, and again, continue to star in it. But by the time it was made and somebody had picked it up, he was too old to play it, so he actually handed the rights over to his son, Michael Douglas, who co-produced the film.
And then the screenplay was written by Lawrence Halbin. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it, and Bo Goldman. And actually, the stage version was adapted by Dale Wasserman.
Yes.
So this is my first time watching this movie. I'd never saw it before, so I didn't know anything I only knew that Jack Nicholson was in it. So it was my first go through. I was like, all right, it's pretty good. Still don't quite understand the hype, but I guess when it came out, it was not many movies have been done quite like that.
No.
And the subject matter was semi unique for the time, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I would think so. I think it also I've seen it a few times. I don't know. I think so to backtrack a little bit, the author had written the book based off of his experiences working at a veterans hospital. And originally in the book, it was a point of view from the chief.
Yes.
So he was pissed when they did in the movies that it did not go down that way.
Yeah, that it wasn't from his point of view. It was kind of mainly focused on Randall McMurphy, Jack Nicholson's character.
Yeah. So he refused to watch the film, and then a few years after the film came out, it was airing on TV, and the author did an interview. It was just hey, I was sitting down for the night, flicking through the channels, and I was like, "Oh, this movie looks interesting." And then when he realized what it was, he was like, "Fuck this!"
Yeah,
Change the
he's like,
channel. It's like,
"Different."
"Not watching it." Um, but I
Talk
don't.
about pettiness.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I guess like if you're really, really proud of your work, um, and I'm sure like for him, like it just that
Mhm.
held a huge piece of the importance of it, and then you
Yeah.
change it.
I guess like it also is a lesson. Unfortunately, it's something that he learned after the fact, but a lesson in what contract or your agreement when you sell the rights to your property.
Yes,
So he sold the rights for I think $20,000.
that's it.
Yeah,
Wow.
I believe it was. It's like a measly sum of what it eventually went on to make. Which Jack Nicholson, he took a very small salary from the film itself because he said that he would take a portion of the profits that it made, which ended up being quite a good deal for him because it made millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he took so that was an exchange for that because it was actually quite an expensive film to make and it took a long time to make.
Well, they had fit like so. Just the way that they filmed it, the content and all that was like kind of unheard of back then. So
Yeah.
I just think it kind of highlights again like how shitty the mental health treatment was back then, right? So
Yeah.
there really wasn't treatment. Like you had these guys on this unit that was actually like you typically wouldn't nowadays see a unit like that because they had some people in there that were like catatonic, nonverbal, just really like just not highly functioning at all.
Yeah.
And the guys in the unit who were, very much functioning and voluntarily there. Some of them probably didn't even really need to be there based on the way that our mental health system is structured today.
Yeah.
So you would never see people together in a unit like that.
Yeah, like they had I think she said there were 18 people in that ward
Mm-hmm.
and then 9 of which were actually part of the group therapy because everyone else
Group therapy.
well yeah, it was a really weirdly structured therapy. I was like, I don't like this at
It was
all.
a therapy that was like run by the head nurse, Nurse Ratchet. So there really was no. It was basically just you got your medication, you did this group therapy, and then that was it. Like you never see them really meeting with the doctor frequently. There's no actual like therapist coming in one on one, and then they kind of just had this weird routine that you really weren't getting much out of it. They would take them outside to get like outdoor time and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Um, but it was just I think it kind of highlights that. It kind of highlights like the overpower that she had as a nurse,
Mhm.
and then kind of what like what freedom really means.
Yeah.
Because like Jack Nicholson's character is on a work farm in jail, so his idea was to basically fake crazy, thinking that he would just have it super easy in this hospital. And, when he first meets the doctor's flat out just like, listen, they think you're full of shit. We kind of think you're full of shit. But we got to do our due diligence and like evaluate you or whatever. Um, but he's thinking too that like at one point he says to like one of the orderlies, like, I got like 68 days, was it matter? And he starts laughing. He's like, do you still not understand where you are?
Yeah, like you're here until we say you can leave.
Yeah. And that is how that works.
Mhm.
So it's just, but so I think it like the look on his face of like reality sinking in of like, wait, what now?
Uh-huh. And it was just he did not realize that everyone there were very few people that were actually committed there. And he was one of them. Um and that most of the other people in the ward were there voluntarily.
Right. And they become so accustomed to that kind of structure
Mhm.
and predictability and that they just didn't want to leave. They're just like, I'm not ready to go.
Yeah.
But they were there. I mean, back in that day, like you could stay. It wasn't uncommon for you to stay for months at a time, even over a year.
Mhm.
So a lot of them had been there for like a very extensive amount of time. And again, like most of them probably didn't even need to be there or
Yeah.
be there that long at least. So I think that was kind of like just this weird thing of like, again, like what does freedom mean to you, and like where's that comfort and where's that kind of support, where you getting it from? And I, I don't know. It's just kind of like this weird contrast of like the chief. When he first meets the chief, he's like, "Oh my god, boy, like you're as big as a mountain," and everyone thought that he was like deaf and dumb
Mhm.
when he wasn't. But he obviously like felt like such a small person with no self esteem, like he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think he was one of the people committed there. He wasn't there voluntarily.
Was he?
I'm pretty sure that they said that that he was one of the.
They never really say why he was there, though.
No, but when Nurse Ratched was saying, she was listing off the people that were there
Yeah.
that were actually committed, and it was like a few people compared to the amount of people in the ward.
There was like 3 or 4, if
Yeah.
that.
It was like the one guy in group with them, forget his freaking name. It was Randall McMurphy, and
Yeah.
then Chief, and like maybe one other. But you don't know necessarily why he's in there. You don't even like. I guess the reason that McMurphy was in jail in the first place was statutory rape,
Yeah.
which that was the super duper creepiest part of the movie, because like the first 5 minutes or whatever, he's McMurphy's talking to the doctor, who is played by an actual doctor in real life, Dean Brooks, who, side note, went on to diagnose one of the actors in the movie. He played Harding, diagnosed him with leukemia that he ended up. He's like, I think you've got 18 months, and sure enough, 18 months later, he did die of leukemia.
Hmm.
So that's sad, but also kind of interesting. So, the doctor is saying why he was in jail in the first place, and he's a 38-year-old man who had sex with a 15-year-old, and just the shit that he was saying
Oh,
in like
yeah.
like to almost be like, well, any man would do it given the circumstance. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to continue watching this movie.
You can just tell like his character is just basically just like your shitty human being who, they had mentioned that he had like 5 or 6 assault charges.
Mhm.
And he basically says he was just like, I like to drink, fight, and fuck. Like that's just it. And gamble, had like a huge gambling problem. But, he goes in there and it's just like, all these people basically, when in his mind, like you have all this freedom to be able to live your life the way that you want, and you're allowing this person to control every aspect of your life and not actually build you up as a person so you can take care of yourself,
Mhm.
on the outside, but basically just allowing this person to control everything, kind of keep pushing you down so you're under their thumb and you can't leave
Yeah.
and explore yourself as a person, explore the world, how you fit into it, and again, just grow. It wasn't structured to be like that at all, and Nurse Ratched really had no interest of doing that.
Yeah, not from what we saw. And it was I there was like a contention between Jack Nicholson and the director Milos Forman, where it was like a huge falling out between the two of them. Jack Nicholson thought it would be better if the men in the ward were all kind of complacent with the way things were going, so that it was a bigger upset in general when he came on, like when he came in and like kind of started like a little uprising.
Yeah.
And the director wanted it to be like they already are kind of like crazy and going against the grain and all this kind of the other thing and not listening to the rules, blah blah blah. And it's just like, well, then it makes no sense.
To throw him in
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
like I'm not gonna be the catalyst for the whole movie, like for the whole plot.
Right.
There is no plot. If they're already crazy, acting crazy, acting up, and I come in, there's
There's no impact. Like,
yeah,
especially the way that it ended. Like, there's going to be literally no impact really at all.
yeah. And so I agree with Jack. I would have been on Jack Nicholson's side, but that's
Yeah.
because of the fallout. That's why he wasn't in the DVD extras,
Yeah.
and they would only put on a front for like press stuff.
Yeah. I guess there was like a rumor, like while they were arguing that Jack Nicholson had. It was like this ridiculous rumor where first it was like, he stopped filming for like 2 months when they were like, really, it was like 2 weeks. And it was because he went to go get hair plugs. And they were like, it's definitely not because he got hair plugs.
Yeah,
It
like
was
you
because
look
of
at his fucking hair and you're like, where are the if they are plugs, they're the worst plugs ever.
yeah. So, but it was actually because of that, the falling out.
Yeah, but he was actually getting the other actors to rehearse
The way that he
the
wanted
way
it,
that
right?
he
Yeah.
wanted it, not the way that the director wanted it. So it was like but like obviously the other actors agreed, you know?
Wait, again, yeah, it made sense. Like,
Yeah, like if you are, I don't know, I feel like that's like, if you call yourself a director and you make that shitty of a call, like what the fuck, dude?
yeah. And he was I think it was Kirk Douglas who wanted him to be the director.
Yeah, they were actually Kirk Douglas had the book and told Milos like, "Hey, I'm gonna send you this book," but I guess he sent it from Czechoslovakia, or was it the
To
Czech Republic?
It was Czechoslovakia that was still under communist regime, so
Yeah,
he never got the
he
book.
never got the book, but there was a huge misunderstanding because Milos was mad that Kirk Douglas didn't send him the book, and then Kirk was mad because Milos didn't say, "Hey, I got your book."
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like years later that they realized what the hell went on, and it was like it seemed like a shit show trying to get this movie made. So there was
Yeah.
between that and then like the author of the book being pissed that they did it the way they did it, saying that they kind of like went back on an agreement on how they were going to present the film.
Right.
And they eventually ended up settling for I think 2.5% of the gross profits, but
Mm,
the author originally wanted a lot more plus $800,000 for damages
wow.
or something. It's like, dude, I
Again,
don't
like
know.
you said though, I mean when you sign your rights over to like your material,
Like,
you really have no
unfortunately,
rights to it anymore.
yeah, like if you didn't write up a contract on exactly what you still like, you don't have creative rights to it after. Like, if you literally sign all the rights over, like,
Yeah.
and you didn't put some kind of loophole in there for yourself,
You can't really complain about it.
yeah,
Like
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but what can you do?
and it blew my mind that they and again like just to show the signs of the times back then because this would never fucking happen now. Um, they actually filmed it in an active hospital.
Yeah,
So like when you said earlier that the doctor was like an actually he was the doctor of the hospital.
yeah,
So and they had like they didn't like close down a ward just for filming just to bring in like the actors and stuff like that. Like it was an active ward that was still being used. So like some of the patients that are there you think are extras aren't. Like they're
they are
actually
actual
patients.
patients.
Which I was like, what now?
What would you? Huh?
Like
Huh? Why would you do that? And not only that, but they all the actors stayed in the hospital.
yeah,
Like,
which broke some of them.
yes, like between filming for so long and not being able to be with his wife, Danny DeVito ended up developing an imaginary friend that he would talk to. And he went to the doctor and was like, "Hey, am I going to be okay?"
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, "As long as you know that he's not real,
Yeah.
you're good." He's like, "Cool." Unfortunately, Sidney Lassick, the actor who played Cheswick, did not fare so well because a lot of the actors stayed in character between takes. So when the cameras would stop rolling, they stayed in character, and Sidney Lassick kind of went over the deep end, and they actually had to like take him off set a couple times to be like, "Dude, you gotta settle the fuck down."
Yeah. The same were that like I think some of the crew like went to the doctor as well to be like, hey, like we're really
You
concerned.
know,
Their response was just like,
this
yeah, we got
guy.
medication, take care of that. I'm like, wait, what? Like we are leaving here when we're done filming. When the film's over, we're going home.
Yeah. No, we have treatments available.
like mm. I think that was something too. Like it's just going back to like the type of treatment that was like portrayed there was again like not to really get to the root of your issue and to help you work through that so you can again leave and just be on your own and manage that on the outside.
Yes.
It was so like punitive. So they had like I don't remember what the fight was over, but when like McMurphy and Chief, I think and Cheswick, right, got into like a physical altercation with the
When was that?
orderly because that was when they got the shock therapy.
Oh, yes. Okay, so they're in group therapy. Cheswick is freaking out because
Oh, he
he
just
wants
wants
his
his cigarettes.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they were rationing their cigarettes because McMurphy had won all of it gambling. He won all their cigarettes, all of their money, and so Nurse Ratchet took it away, and he's upset and he's getting like more and more agitated.
Which typically wasn't like him.
No.
Like he would get agitated and be like, just like shut it. Okay.
Mm. But he kept escalating. He kept getting like higher, like more and more, like he's getting louder, more physically like agitated, and it was just like it got to a point where it was boiling over, and they were taking him away, and then there was
And Jack
fighting.
Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's character just busted through the nurse's station, grabbed a pack of cigarettes at the carton, and just at that point, it was just all hell broke loose. So instead of de-escalating and like processing what happened and moving forward, they all just got ECT because apparently that's just what you go to.
That's your calm down juice.
I was just
Mhm.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I don't know if Cheswick had gotten it before, and that's why he was afraid, or if he was just afraid because this had never happened before, and he didn't know what was going to happen.
My guess is that he knew because they didn't tell them when they went down there on that different wing what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Mm.
So my guess is that he already had it before, and that's why he was freaking out because it wasn't like, oh, sit down, like this is what therapy we're gonna do. Like, no, they just fucking took you in this room with like 5 other people to help hold you down, and that was it. Like there was no
Yeah.
explanation.
And that was the scene where you find out that Chief does talk and he can hear. So he was just playing deaf and dumb the entire time.
Right.
And it was just that huge like I was kind of laughing as he's like, juicy fruit. That's what gets you. Fucking gums whose flavor lasts 5 seconds.
It's so good though, that 5 seconds.
It is good. Juicy fruit.
I think you would start to see that like the more that McMurphy keeps talking to Chief and like keeps trying to like get him to interact,
Mm-hmm.
and be part of something, and he starts to kind of smile a little bit more, and he actually does start to like play the basketball a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, he starts to like open up and realize that he's, worth something.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Just seeing him like come out of his shell, and he's like this big towering guy. And they actually were at a loss to try to find an like a Native American of his stature because
Yeah.
he was supposed to be this big honking guy. Based off his description in the book, and they were like they could not find anyone until they Will Sampson, who plays Chief, until they found him, and they're like, dude, yes. And
Wasn't
he's
this
like
a
6'7".
yeah? He's a mountain.
Yeah.
Wasn't it one of, because I know like when they break out and they go charter fishing, like that was the guy who was just like, hey, fuck you doing on this boat? Like he was just the guy who just owned that company. So I think it was either him or it was a local who recommended the actor who played Chief. Like he lived there, like he was a native of that area.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool that they did use like people of the town stuff,
Mhm.
but I still mind boggled that they filmed in an active hospital with an active wing. Like,
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because not a lot of movies are shot this way. It was actually shot sequentially, except for the boat scene. They shot that last, and everyone but Jack Nicholson got seasick.
yeah.
I want to say it's because they were going around in circles.
It was choppy day too.
Yeah.
Like the waters were not calm at all.
Yeah. The one character's like hooking the fish and he's playing with the
I
eyeball.
know.
I was like, oh,
Puts it back on for him. Like,
oh God. Oh my God. It was so gross. I was like, why am I watching this movie?
I was like, I don't know, it was just so upsetting. Like, completely understandable the hospital's reaction because like they broke out,
Yes.
and so it's just like you have no idea like where they're at, what they're doing, like if they're gonna be able to handle this. Some of them,
Hmm.
so completely understandable, but like they all experienced something that they never had to do, and just like some sort of normalcy. And they were also proud of themselves, like the fish that they caught, and
Yeah, some of the fish were almost as big as they were.
right. And then they were all just like so obviously reprimanded again, like understandably, but at the same time, it was just frustrating. Because I'm like, just can you let them be human beings and not just like another number where you just give them meds and sit them down?
Yeah. Like they need that semblance of normalcy. Like in the one of the group therapy sessions, I believe it's Cheswick. Cheswick is asking Nurse Ratchet like why she keeps pressing Billy to talk about
Yeah.
essentially why he's in there.
I think that's what sets him off too, about the cigarettes and everything else.
Yeah, and the nurse like she goes around asking other people to like kind of put in their 2 cents about whoever is talking about their issues. And Cheswick is concerned, like, why do you keep pressing when anyone doesn't want to talk about it? He's like, well, that's the point of therapy. And another patient is like, well, why do you lock the dorms after we wake up in the morning? I'm like, well, because if we don't lock them, you're just going to go back to sleep right after breakfast. And a part of socializing with other people is like, it's therapeutic. And I think Christopher Lloyd's character is like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not okay to want to be alone.
Yeah.
And that's when things start, I think, escalating. And
Because they actually start to think for themselves and
yes,
question their treatment and want to know, like, why, like, what's the therapeutic purpose of this? Like, what other options do I have? And,
Mm.
again, like, instead of just kind of droning along and not questioning anything, like, actually start to, like, hey, is this beneficial?
Yeah.
Like, it is natural to want to be alone. Like, that is okay from time to time.
Yes. And yes, it is also good to interact with other people and socialize. But that's not the only part of therapy.
Right.
Like, and it's also doesn't always have to be the part of therapy that you share with a whole group of people. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like, one-on-one is very beneficial as well, because talking in a group can be hugely daunting, especially when you have someone like Billy's character. He has a stutter, and he's a very meek individual, and Nurse Ratchet knows his weaknesses.
Which knows his mom, like the family personally,
Yes,
so exploits that pretty hard.
yes. Which I think that was the tipping point for I think both of us.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, I'd never seen this movie, so I wasn't sure why so many people had this hatred of Nurse Ratchet. I'm like, yeah, she's not like lovable, but you can see sometimes that there are times when she had good intentions, and she kind of has to be this stern character when you are a female in this kind of position. Like you do have to be very stern because the people might not want to take orders from you, especially men, because back then what this was supposed to be in the 60s or 70s.
The book was written in the early 60s, but I think that's where it's kind of off, is, and a lot of people have said like she was just drunk with power because she was given way more power than would typically be given.
Yeah. Agreed.
So just, I mean, the fact that she was even in with the other doctors conversating. Now she wasn't at the table. They made her sit off to the side, but the fact that she was even in the room
Yeah.
discussing if McMurphy was actually crazy, and they were like, he's dangerous in a criminal type aspect, but he's not. He shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
He's definitely just milking it. Like, he should not be here. She knew it.
Yeah.
She absolutely knew it, and she was just like, well, I don't think we should pass our problem off to somebody else.
Yes, we can help him. It's like,
But help for what, though? What does he need help with if he shouldn't be here?
yes, I think she just wanted to put him in his place.
Yeah.
And that was near the end of the film. There's this big party scene which um they wanted to they were excited to film for like all of the cast and crew to kind of be like, hey, everyone needs a break from acting crazy.
Yeah.
So let's do the party scene. And it was supposed to be when McMurphy and Chief would break out and finally escape like they've been planning to. And then everyone passes out after they were kind of like egging on Billy to sleep with McMurphy's girlfriend.
Yeah, he even says, 'cause, like, it was very obvious one of Billy's issues is like attachment.
Yes.
So, like, getting infatuated very quickly and falling in love without, like, literally just meeting somebody for a couple minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where his, um, basically like neurosis and depression comes from, and attempted suicide, where if he doesn't get that love right away and doesn't understand why, kind of sends him over the edge. So it was very obvious that he liked Candy, like when they were on the fishing trip, and then when she comes back in, and they had
slow
to win.
dancing. They were slow dancing.
Yeah, like obviously McMurphy definitely has like an attachment to the patients there. Like, he's grown with them. He's, he likes them.
Yeah.
So they were about to leave. They had the window open. They were saying their goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, like, kind of off to the side looking, like, very sad. And he
Yeah.
was just like, come with me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like, why are you even in here? Like, come with me. Like, what, you should be, like, bird dogging women and, like, basically just having sex all the time. Like, you're a
Yeah.
good-looking kid. You're young. And he even said he was just like, I'm just not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't understand. I'm just not ready to leave. He's like, I'll give you my address. And he, like, looked, that kind of, got him excited and kind of like, okay, like, when I am ready to leave, like, we'll go meet up. And
Yeah.
you could kind of tell he wanted to do something nice for him.
Yeah.
And obviously he liked Candy. He probably never had sexual relations with a girl, so he talked to which was creepy too, but talked Candy into having sex with him. And Billy at least had the boundaries to be like, but, like, aren't you guys dating?
Yeah. Like, you're gonna marry her, right? And he's like, no.
We're just friends.
Yeah.
Who fuck? Like,
So he was gave him his blessings, put them in a room. They're fucking, and then there's like this weird, awkward scene where it's just Jack Nicholson's face, like I think thinking about things,
yeah.
and it's probably up to the audience's interpretation of what's going on through his mind. But then everyone passes out, and the place is trashed.
Oh yeah.
Nurse Ratched and the other orderlies come in, and she just starts tearing people up. She's like, "All right, get them all up. See who's missing." They find everyone but Billy. So she's questioning people like, "Hey, did Billy escape?" And no one's answering. So they're searching all the rooms. They find Billy in with Candy, and he comes out, and he's just like, I'm not
sorry. I'm
not sorry for
ashamed."
what I did. And she's like, "Well, what would your mother think?" And then she's essentially threatening to tell his mom, and he starts freaking out, and they take him away, and then he ends up killing himself.
Yeah.
So that's when you really start hating Nurse Ratched,
Because
because
it, like, wasn't necessary.
Yeah, she held that over him, knew the kind of effect it would have on him, and didn't. I don't think it quite hit her the ramifications of her actions when she saw him dead. And then McMurphy goes and tries to strangle her.
Because he knew that, like, she did it to be spiteful. She did it as a dig, and she did it to, as a, you should be ashamed, and, like, bad person. You did bad. Like, let me just really twist the knife in here and just make you feel super guilty for it. So she absolutely knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
So, and the fact that, like, obviously McMurphy had this affection for him, for this young kid, and for it to turn out that way because he can't handle that kind of rejection or, making his mom, who obviously he was probably unhealthily close to, upset
Yeah.
in any kind of way. Like, that was why he
Mhm.
ended up in the hospital for, like, what I'm going to assume was probably stalking a neighbor girl.
Yeah.
Because he thought that they had something.
Yes. That's what it kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So McMurphy ends up, because of his actions towards Nurse Ratched, he ends up getting lobotomized.
Yep.
And unfortunately, this is when the chief finally feels as big as a mountain and is ready to leave.
But he wouldn't leave without McMurphy.
Yeah. They had planned on leaving together, like that was their whole big thing. So they essentially do escape together. But McMurphy, being lobotomized, could not physically escape, so he gets smothered.
Yeah, Chief, poor guy, he's like, I can't leave you like this, and put him out of his misery.
Yeah, that was depressing.
Yeah.
But he tore up that sink thing, faucet thingy.
Marble sink, Jesus.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Looking at it hurts my back trying to think
I know,
about
right?
lifting it.
I love how Jack Nicholson actually tried to, like, lift it for that scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, why are you trying to hurt yourself?
I don't know. Some people just, they want to get hurt.
I don't know. It's like, you don't need to
They
commit
want
that
a
hard to
hernia.
that scene. Like, I like, though, too, how when Nurse Ratched came in and she was trying to like get everything back in order because everything, on her unit ran the way that she needed it to, and she had that shit running like a well-oiled machine, and she was perfect. That when she asked for her cap back, she looked at it and it was all tattered and like
and dirty and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and I was kind of like, yeah, like this is your unit. Look what it had. Look what happened to it.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like just I think a good like symbolic way to show she is now tainted and she doesn't have control, obviously, and
Yeah.
her good name has been tarnished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Brad Dourif is the name of the actor of Billy Bibbit. I didn't remember. I saw it in IMDb credits. But he also plays Wormtail in Lord of the Rings. Have you not seen Lord of the Rings?
We've been over this several times.
God damn it!
Like several times.
Oh, jeez. That's fucking. Wow, I blacked out for a second. Like, jeez. Okay. He's done a lot of character actor type work.
Uh-huh.
Fuck. That's going to be on our list of
Okay.
movies. Just so
Alright.
you know.
Sure.
Sure?
I'll watch it.
Okay.
Jesus, relax.
You just sound like you're like, sure. Sure. Okay. It's going to be on the list. Annie Hoozle. This movie is, it's on several different lists of movies you gotta see before you die.
Like
It
top
was
5, I think.
one of 3 movies I think to have won like the big 5 Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Like best movie, best director, best actor, best actress, and I think best screenplay or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
But it's one of 3 that won all 5. And yeah, so it's definitely I think a good movie to watch. It is currently on Netflix now because of that
Yeah.
TV series.
So Ryan Murphy, who did American Horror Story, and I don't know if it's going to continue to be a series or if it was just like a one-off miniseries, but this past year released Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it's called. Highly recommend it. Really good. Actually ends with like a happy ending, made me cry. So watch it, but it's I think a prequel of
What kind of happy ending?
like an actual happy ending.
What kind of happy ending?
I mean, there's those kind of happy endings in it too.
Okay. But like the
Yes.
Okay. Not
Yes.
the oh.
No, an actual like yes, a happy
Okay.
ending.
Okay.
Which is unlike stuff that he typically does. So you should watch it.
Okay.
But I think it's a prequel of how Nurse Ratched becomes Nurse Ratched. So I think it's
Yes.
her enrolling into like nursing school and her first job and stuff like that. So of course it stars Sarah Paulson because why wouldn't it? She's in everything he does. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm excited to.
All right. Now that I've finally seen this movie, I can watch it and be like, now I know who she is.
Yeah.
Because, yes. But yeah, so Netflix, check it out. And this will conclude our September series of movies that highlight issues of mental health awareness and addiction and recovery.
Yes.
So our next batch of movies are all going to be spooky ones,
Yes.
Halloween type movies, because it's October.
I'm
almost.
very excited.
Much excited. She's not excited for our first movie that's coming
that
up.
goddamn movie.
It's awesome.
It was, to be fair, I love scary movies. It was very hard for me to choose what 4 scary movies we'd be doing. I could do months of this because Jen hates scary movies. Her one pick that I hate is arachnophobia.
Yes.
'Cause I fucking hate spiders.
It is one of my
so much.
favorite movies, and I am so excited. I don't know why. I too have arachnophobia, not like hers. But I too don't like spiders, but I do love this movie. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming up. Again, like our other movies from this month of September, we will have resources linked in the description box down below, as well as our social media. And we will see you in our October Spooky Movie Fest.
Yeah.
Okay? Bye-bye.